All right, so we're going to start a brand new part, and I want to talk about patterns. We've discussed uh, doing circular patterns. This time I want to talk about linear patterns, all right, because it's a little bit confusing if you're doing it for the first time, but once you get it the first time, then it's pretty easy. So I'm just going to create a generic, block, a simple slate, probably from the front plane, left click, new sketch. I'll drop down, I'll use a center rectangle, start from the origin. See, I do this every single time without fail. I'm going to change my thing to IPS. It's going to kick me out, and I'm going to edit sketch again. There we go. So let's see make sure we have the same size. Sure, we'll make this 10 inches. And we'll make the side 8 inches. How about that?
Which plane did you start at?
Front plane. Yeah. For this exercise, it doesn't really matter. But I'm going to create a... Let's do a polygon, because we haven't really played with polygons at all yet. So using the polygon tool, it's not for construction. 6 sides, that sounds good to me. Inscribed versus circumscribed, we have those radio buttons to select, but I'm just going to left click. And I'm going to pull it out. That looks good. So this hexagon is an island inside of a single border, right? So it's going to be treated as a whole. Actually, is that going to cause me a problem down the line? It probably will. So you know what? Let's get rid of it. I'm going to trim entities. Get rid of this. Or you can just delete it. Okay, I'm going to green check out. I'm going to exit my sketch. I notice that my sketch is gray. It's not light blue. That means it's not selected. So I'm going to left click once on sketch 1. Hit extrude boss base. And I'll just extrude it a 1/4 inch. 0.25. And confirm it. Okay. So now we'll go ahead and do the hexagon. So I'm going to left click on the top face to start a sketch. Okay. If you're not going to use the heads up display here, because my face is highlighted, I'm going to go to sketch and also click on the sketch tool. That also gets me into sketch. Okay. So now spacebar. Hit that normal to view. And I'm going to throw in the 6-sided polygon. We can smart dimension this if we'd like to. Go from flat to flat. Say it's 1 inch. And maybe from the center point to the edge, we'll say 1 inch. And do it again. Center point to the left edge, 1 inch. Okay. So once I've got everything squared off, 1 inch from either side, as well as 1 inch from flat to flat, I'm going to exit the sketch. It should be highlighted in light blue right off the bat. If it's not, left click once on sketch number 2. Okay. Then I'm going to go into the features tab and do an extruded cut. Make sure that it goes all the way through. So I'm going to select through all as my direction 1 and green check. Okay, so right next to the fillet tool under the features tab is linear pattern. So left click on linear pattern. For me, it automatically found my sketch. I don't remember if it was highlighted or not, but under features and faces, you can left click inside that box and then you can select the inner wall of that cut and it'll recognize your cut feature. Okay. Now, directly above features and faces that we want to create a pattern from, we have direction 1 and direction 2. Okay, this basically lines up to be our x-axis and our y-axis. So under direction 1, I'm going to left click inside that empty box. Okay, and what it's looking for is a reference line to follow. All right, so if it's looking for, I mean, I can make this an x-axis or a y-axis. It doesn't really matter. It's based on my selection. But if I'm looking for something that simulates an x-axis, right now I have this bottom edge and the top edge that simulates an x-axis. So I'm going to left click one of those lines. And as soon as I do, you can see that I'm getting a little bit of repetition here. Okay, the next part is to set up the distance and the instances. So if we set this up as a 1-inch distance, all right, that's a 1-inch distance from each other. Maybe we set it up as 2 inches. And then we can increase our instances. Okay. If we only have one direction, then this is all we need to do. But if we want to create a bigger pattern all the way across or all the way down, this plate, then I have to do selection for the y-axis. So direction 2 is already highlighted in blue. So now it's looking for a reference that simulates the y-axis. So right now, this left edge and or the right edge is simulating the y-axis. So I'm going to left click one of these edges. And again, I have to change my spacing, maybe 1.5 inch. All right, I see it moving in the other direction. So I'm going to click on the little toggle to make sure we stay in my plate. And then amount of instances. Okay, that looks good. My plate is filled. I green check to confirm everything. And it cuts everything out. Okay, so you can do this with a cut. You can also do this with boss features. Okay, if we were to have a boss feature, I'm going to left click on my plate, start a new sketch, and let's throw some cylinders in. All right, hold on a second. Let me finish this. Create my sketch, exit the sketch, extrude boss base. All right, I'm just going to pull this up really quick and confirm. All right, so in the same manner, select linear pattern. It recognizes that particular feature. And direction 1, direction 2 is looking for x-axis and y-axis. So there is 1. Direction 2 is highlighted. There is 2. Now I can fine-tune the instances. Bring this down to 1. Bring this down 1. Then green check. And it'll copy that as a linear pattern. So either cuts or bosses. It doesn't matter what the feature is. Okay, but it will create a pattern out of that feature.